Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy that you're able to join us today. We've got a very large crowd already attending, so I can tell that this is a very popular topic. I'm Diane Okonski, President of the Icelandic National League of the United States. And as I said, I'm very happy that you're able to join us today. Before we get started, there are just a couple of things I need to go over with you. As you noticed on the introduction screen, you are on mute, but we do want to hear your questions. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And if you're on a tablet or a smartphone, the Q&A button may be in the upper right-hand corner, or you may have to swipe to get it. But please don't let that stop you. Also, our program is being recorded and will be available on the INLUS website in just a few days. So today we are very pleased to have with us again Jóhannes Thór Skúlason, Managing Director of the Icelandic Travel Industry Association. You may remember that he spoke with us last May when we thought that maybe we could just work around this thing called COVID. But in this challenging time, Jóhannes, we're so happy to have you back to give us the latest news. It seems that things are changing nearly every day, and it's good to have you here to give us the facts. And I know you've got a lot to tell us about, so I'm just going to turn it over to you. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you all of you for having me. It's always an honor to be with you, and it's very nice to be, have this technology to be able to visit a little bit, over the Atlantic. It's not like we're going anywhere these days anyway. So it's great to see you all. And what I would maybe like to do today is or tonight, as it is with me, it's like completely dark out. It's 9 o'clock in the evening. It's just maybe go a little bit over what's been happening here and how we are looking into the next summer. I expect you're looking for a little bit of information on if you'll be able to visit Iceland this summer or this year, and what restrictions will apply and when they will be lifted and so on. And I think I have a little bit of positive news for you in that regard. So we'll go over that. So we've been having, like many countries, we've been having a little bit of a COVID wave now here before during the fall and into Christmas, and it seems right now that we are getting a little bit better results from the Christmas festivities than many of the European countries. We're seeing big spikes going on in the UK, in Spain, France, Germany, pretty much all over Europe. But it looks like that we've been able to contain COVID, the outbreaks that could have happened around Christmas here in Iceland. At least the testing tells us so. Right now, it seems to be going down, the number of new positive tests. So we're hoping that this will help us to keep on the track that we're looking for into the summer. And we certainly haven't been hit in any way as hard as you guys have in the US. We've been very, very lucky. And in part, of course, that's because we're on island, and it's a lot easier to kind of control the flow of people in and out, and we've had this quite strict testing and quarantine regimen going on since August, and so that's enabled us to kind of contain the spread of the disease. But when we look into the next coming months, speaking from the point of view of my job, where I'm sitting with a travel association, travel industry association, we're of course looking at how the industry will be able to recover from this. Most of the companies have laid off nearly all of their staff. They are now just in survival mode. They are laying as low as they can. The government has been implementing assistance to companies to help them to survive through the winter. And right now, as it is, there are, I think we can safely say that in 3 months before Christmas, we had around maybe 1,500 actual tourists coming per month to Iceland, which is of course a very, very low number. And it's quite hard to find out who's actually a tourist and who's not, because we have a lot of foreign workforce that actually lives here and is part of Icelandic society that has been going back and forth to their countries of origin and coming back. So we have more than half of people who have been coming per month are people who are traveling back and forth. So right now we expect the first quarter of this year to be much the same, perhaps even less, because now we have since the announcement, well, the government made the announcement on Friday that everyone would have to have a mandatory this 2 screenings and 5 days of quarantine in between would be mandatory for everyone coming to Iceland. You can't from the 1st of from yesterday, you can't choose to take 14 days of quarantine. So everyone has to take these 2 screenings and 5 days of quarantine in between. And it will stay like that until May, till 1st of May. So we're looking at a period now of a few months where we don't think there will be many tourists. We already knew that January, February, and March would be very, very slow. It's a time that the tourism companies are using to kind of work through their problems, working through the debts that have been piling up, and using the government subsidies that are coming out now in January and February to counteract those debts. So when we come into April, we expect the companies to start hiring some key employees again, and then in May that they will be starting to kind of trying to ramp up before summer. And I think when we hit like around the middle of May, I believe most of the companies I think most of the companies will be up and running. I think they will be focused on trying to make the most of the summer. And I think that you will be then able to travel to Iceland, and the companies will be ready to receive you. And hopefully we will have a border regiment for screenings and not quarantine that will enable people to come to Iceland. We have been working with the government on analyzing the situation and setting up scenarios in how we could do that since the middle of October. And what was announced this Friday was that, I'm just going to show you this if I can quite quickly, if I can share my screen here. I can also show you then where you can actually follow these announcements. So this is the official website of the government of Iceland. It's just government.is, quite easy. You can find it in English. There's not everything that comes out is in English, but everything relating to travel restrictions is given out in English. Of course, you can also get these get the current information on the webpage covid.is, which is the kind of the funnel for information regarding travel to Iceland, which I expect many of you already know. But this is the press release from last Friday, and it says, like I already told you, the screening process, the 2 screenings with 5 days of quarantine between will be mandatory for arriving passengers until the 1st of May. And if we scroll down a little bit, then the second part of this announcement from the government was what we were waiting for in the travel business, that come 1st May, the rules will change. So then, instead of everyone having to go through this 2 screenings with 5 days of quarantine in between, passengers will be color-coded according to the country where they come from. So countries will be divided into risk areas, high risk to low risk, and color-coded with red for high-risk countries, green for low-risk countries, and yellow in between. It's a similar system as the EU has been advocating for the whole of the Schengen area, and it's built on that. It's like most of the countries that have adapted some kind of this color coding. I think like 15 or 16 European nations have some version of it. This kind of color coding of risk areas, and they all take their kind of the colors from the ECDC, which is the European Disease Control Agency. And so what will happen is that from the 1st of May, these are the rules that will apply. If you see this, I hope it's large enough. I can make it a little bit bigger. So we have these 3 risk categories, and they will depend which risk category the US will fall into. Will go by this, that green will mean that the 14-day incidence rate is below 25 per 100,000 inhabitants, and less than 4% of the tests that have been of the screening tests are positive. So orange is then where the incidence rate is a little bit higher, and red applies if the situation is more severe. So that's kind of what makes your country go green, orange, or red. And then what happens is that if we start with red, if you have a red situation going on in the country where the tourist is coming from, like in your case, the US or Canada, then you will have to go through the same system that we have now. That's double screening with a 5-day quarantine. But if you have orange or green, right now they are the same, but the government will be assessing this again every month, and they are hoping that with the inoculations going on, the vaccine inoculations going on, that they will be able to make green even easier than it is in this system right now. So green will be easiest, orange somewhere in between, and red will be the hardest one. So right now it's the same thing, that passengers who are coming to Iceland, if they can present a valid proof of a negative PCR test at the border, they will be exempt from quarantine and a second screening. So if you can provide a negative PCR test, then you can, yeah, exactly. So then you just have to provide the test. It will have to be probably 48 to 72 hours old. And if you can provide the test, a valid test at the border, which fulfills the criteria for the testing in Iceland, then you will be let in, and it will be all right. You don't have to take the second test. You could be a tourist in Iceland if you've got your proof of negative testing. The same applies with if you've already got if you already have had COVID and have gotten better, then you can just, if you can provide a test of antigens from your bloodstream that say you have the antigens for the COVID, assess pretty much tells that you've already had it, then you can walk right in and you don't have to be tested. The same it will apply if you can provide your inoculation card and say, oh, I've already got the vaccine, then you can walk right in. So all in all, this means that from the 1st of May, it will be a lot easier to come to Iceland than it is right now, because you don't have to stay for 5 days of quarantine if you can get tested before you come. So, and that's, of course, I realize that is a hurdle for many people. The access to testing isn't as good for everyone, but if you're planning ahead, then it should be something that people should be able to do now with all kinds of testing. I need to stress that this PCR test, it's not the rapid test like the Abbott tests. They won't be accepted, at least not yet. They are looking at it, but right now it's just the PCR ones, the kind of like rigid medical virus testing they do in the clinics and hospitals. So we're not yet at the place where, like, when you fly Delta to Italy, you can just use the rapid testing. So it's a little bit different from that. But this is kind of how it looks for this summer. And then, of course, if I put that down again, the big question is if the EU will open up its borders, the Schengen borders, for travelers from the US. And I think it's probably best not to kind of predict anything on that, but maybe just a little bit of insight though. Everything with the EU, everything that the EU does at this highest level is somehow political in nature. And we saw in March when the EU closed the borders, it wasn't purely because of medical reasons. There were political reasons involved also. President Trump, when he closed the borders of the US to Europeans, the Schengen border closing was in part, at least, a kind of a political retaliation to that decision. So I believe that if the new administration coming in now in on January 20th, isn't it? If the Biden administration kind of is and somehow has, let's say, just has another approach to that, to the US borders and closures at the US borders, there might be a will on the EU side to discuss that. Perhaps we wouldn't see, we probably won't see a very quick kind of reopening, but we might see a relaxation of the rules. We might see some kind of agreement being reached, or the EU saying, well, we can accept travelers from the US as long as they can provide a negative PCR screening test, which would fit our program very well. So I think that there is, at least the way we read it here in our political atmosphere, and what we hear from the Ministry of Justice, which handles these border control things with the EU and the whole Schengen border things. Our impression from those from the Ministry of Justice is that they expect that this might be something that might happen in maybe the first 3 months after the administration change, at least from what President-elect Biden has kind of said in the past. And and kind of the reactions that has gotten from the top level of the EU. But of course, I mean, this is all speculation, but it's something that one might hope that will happen, because we've seen the EU relax these rules toward, I think, 14 or 15 countries. And you can see the political aspect of it in how that decision was angled toward the Chinese, because the rules now say Chinese tourists can enter the Schengen area provided European tourists from the EU can enter China. So there is this is an English word I can't ever say right. Reciprocity. If you do it, we'll do it. That's what it means. So and that's what I mean. If the new US administration would say, well, we're opening up borders to EU passengers with these kinds of restrictions, testing and so on, there's a big possibility that the EU would say, well, okay, we'll do that too, and we'll do the same thing you are doing. The EU is very it's a political animal like that. Not always very rational or logical. It's sometimes a strange animal to work with. So I think, and of course, I mean, we at the Travel Industry Association are kind of crossing our fingers for something like this to happen, because passengers from the US are our most valued customer base. I mean, it's our biggest market. US travelers were in the year 2019 were around a third of our guests. So it's a huge thing for us to be able to receive people from the US again, and this is something that the whole industry is hoping for very much. So if you'll be able to come to Iceland, we'll be really, really happy. It'll be really good for us if you guys could travel here without too many restrictions. So this is kind of how it's looking. We can perhaps say that right now we have our here in Iceland, we've kind of set our goals. We've kind of laid everything up. So if the Schengen restrictions are lifted, we'll be ready to receive you, provided you can get tested back home and bring it with you to the airport. So that's kind of how it's looking now, which is dramatically better than it was 3 days ago. And we're hoping, I mean, we're hoping here that we will be able to, I was just talking to one of the top officials in the PM's office just earlier today, and unofficially he was quite optimistic that we would be able to vaccinate around a third of the population before the end of May, end of June. So before the end of second quarter. So hopefully before June 1st. So and that would mean a dramatic change in our approach to border restrictions, because that would mean we will have, if that happens, we will have minimized the threat to our health system. We will have minimized the or dropped the threat of people being put in hospital. At least the threat will have gone down like 70 or 80%. The threat of deaths will have gone down like 80%. So it will be a completely different world then, and we're hoping that will coincide with like this May, June dates that then will be a lot. The government, of course, then will be, and the people of Iceland, of course, will be a lot more positive to relax the restrictions even more. So if you're looking at traveling to Iceland, I would say July or August are looking good. That's kind of the best I can give you right now. But it's a lot better than like I said, but just a few days ago. Then it didn't look as good. But it's going in the right way. I was thinking I should perhaps now not talk anymore and just let you guys try to answer your questions.
And we do have a number of them that have come in. And so just one question that may cover many of these is that currently the US would be categorized as red because of our positivity rate and occurrence. If we were able to come into to Iceland, and if we had our proof of vaccination, would we be able to just walk in, or do we still have to go into quarantine?
No, you just walk in. If you have proof of vaccination, like that little yellow book that we're all supposed to have, but nobody knows where it is. It's like an internationally recognized vaccination proof. You should be able to, if you don't have it, you should be able to get it at your local health provider. If you have got proof of your vaccination, you just walk right through. There's no testing, there's no quarantine, nothing. The same if you've already had COVID and recovered, you just walk right through, no problem. So it's just for people who have no, haven't been vaccinated, haven't had COVID before. They need to provide the testing before they come in.
Okay. One of the other questions that's come in is whether or not there will be some consideration given to what region of the United States you come in. So, there are certain parts of the country that are have much less infected than in others. Would there be some consideration as to where you're coming from?
That remains to be seen. Right now, we have been looking at Europe because in our talks with the government regarding this, we've been looking at and working with the European countries and the map of Europe and the kind of information we have from there. Some of those, like Germany, like Finland and Norway, operate on a kind of a state level. Germany obviously is a federal state. Norway isn't, but they have a higher level of self-control for certain areas. The Finland, the same. So in those cases, there's the same problem. We have parts of Norway, parts of Germany that are green, parts of Germany that are red, and the same would apply with the US, with the states. The line from the government until now has been, we will look at whole countries. If we can't distinguish between West Germany and East Germany, or Northern Norway and Southern Norway, because everybody will be flying out of Oslo, and we don't have any indication of where people are coming from. We don't have the manpower to kind of track down where you actually live and where you've been. We have to trust people. So, and with like when the airlines will start up again, the likelihood is that we will be seeing flights from fewer cities than we had in 2019, at least to begin with. So for the US, it would probably be the same problem, but of course you probably have in your passports exactly which state you live in and your address and all that. So that kind of course provides information. The potential problem is that the border guards here will say, well, there are just flights here from like Boston, from New York, and Philadelphia, and but you're coming from your passport says California, but we have no way of knowing. The thing is that we need to know is where you've been staying for the last 14 days, not where you live. and that's the problem. So it's the same problem that we're having now with people coming from abroad, people who maybe were born in Poland but live here and have lived here for years with their families. They go to Poland, but they're flying in from Germany, and then they drive to Poland, and there's no way for the border guard to know where they've been for the last 14 days. Did they just go on holiday in Berlin, or did they actually go home to Warsaw? So the logical thing would of course be to say, well, Minnesota is green, state of New York is red, California is yellow, and go by state, just like you do countries in Europe. But that would have to be based on that there's actual data available for the health administration in Iceland on new for each state, which I'm not sure how it is with the states in the US, but with some of the European states, it's a problem. We have very different information from Western, Northern, Eastern Europe. For some of them, there's very little testing, there's very little information, and I expect it to be better in the US, but that's something that they would look at. So to begin with, I would assume that the whole of the US will get the same color, but as we go along and perhaps get nearer to the summer and we get better information, then perhaps at least it will be with the association, we will be asking the government to try to filter it by state, because that's more fair to the traveler.
Okay, thank you. One of the other questions that has come in has to do with a couple. So in this case, the wife is an Icelandic citizen, and the gentleman is a U.S. citizen. They live in the U.S. Are the rules going to apply equally to them?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
They will, because like I said, it all depends on where you have been staying during the last 14 days. It doesn't matter if you've got an Icelandic passport or a US passport. If you've been staying in New York for the last 14 days, you're coming from abroad from a red zone, you both get the same treatment.
Okay. Okay. Leaving Iceland, many countries are now requiring negative tests upon entry. So that you need to get the PCR test before you leave. Is that going to be available for non-residents as they depart from home? Is there a way to get that done?
It has to be. So I think I can safely answer that one, yes, because it has to be. It will be. It has been available to people now. It will be a little bit more difficult if we say get 100,000 visitors in June, and 20,000 of those need to get tests before they go back home. But we will manage somehow, because what will have happened then is that because of these new rules, our testing capacity will not be taken up so much by people coming in, because they will be providing their own tests. So the testing capacity, it is going up. We're getting new machines, and so the capacity is rising, and it won't be blocked by people coming in. So there should be a little bit of more of a leeway to accommodate people who need to have a test before they leave. So I believe the health system will do everything they can to provide that service. Okay. But it kind of depends on the numbers.
Okay. And just to reiterate then, even if the US is red, and this assumes that North Americans are allowed to come into Iceland.
Yeah.
Even if the US is red, if we have proof that we've had and recovered from COVID, or we've had the vaccine and have proof of that, we are exempt from the quarantine rules.
Yeah, you just have to bring proof that you've had COVID, like you have to get your blood drawn and get the antigen measurements and bring proof of that, or bring your vaccination proof.
Okay.
And then there's no testing, no quarantine, you just walk right in.
Okay.
It's like that. It's even like that now.
Okay.
So yeah.
Have the airlines made any further adaptations since you talked with us in May?
No, they haven't. It's the only airline flying here now is Iceland Air, and they are just providing very minimal service. They have their approach is to just work with what the government tells them, and they are not like we've seen with like Delta Airlines, where they've been working directly with the Italian government and some others about some kind of different test regimens where they're depending on their flying. Iceland Air has just used the Icelandic government as a bar, and they do whatever they need to do that the government says they have to do. They try to provide safety for their passengers as well as they can on top of that, and they try to do everything that the different governments where they are landing abroad need them to do to fulfill the requirements there. So as far as I know, for the last few months, the regiments with Iceland Air haven't changed very much. They're always changing a little bit, but there's nothing big that has changed. So you don't have to worry about anything with Iceland Air, at least, being different from what the Icelandic government says. They will follow it and try to help passengers to work through it.
So as far as the travel industry is concerned, are there any enticements or specials that are being offered to citizens or to travelers to coax them back?
Well, we had last summer, we had a very big range of kind of special offers to Icelanders because, I mean, we weren't getting very much of foreign tourists. I think just around 20% of the numbers from 2019. So, but I think all of the companies they have amended their canceling policies. So now, if you like before, if you booked a holiday, like a package holiday, you had to cancel 6 weeks before arrival date to get refund. That's now gone down to 2 weeks or maybe just 1 week. And even with many of the kind of adventure companies like the snowmobile companies, and you can just call the day before and cancel. So they've amended their cancellation policy, so it's a lot easier to get refunds a short time before. If your trip falls through just before the flight is cancelled or something happens, you get COVID or something, then you can cancel like a lot longer, closer to your arrival date. So that's perhaps the biggest one, and then I expect the companies to now be working on what they are going to be offering for this summer. So we're not really expecting booking to start until maybe at the end of this month, or maybe perhaps in the middle of February. Obviously, everybody's kind of waiting a little bit now, even though in a regular year everybody would be booking now from January to March, but that will probably go to March through May right now. So I think right now the companies have been, because they've laid off all their staff, they've been waiting for government subsidies, I think it is, that will enable them to hire some key staff back to start working on, marketing, sales, special offers, and things like that. So I think you probably should be able to find offers being put out there sometime in the next 2 months. But it's always, if you're looking, it's always a good time to just when nothing's happening. It's always a good time to just call the companies that you want to talk to and ask what they can offer you.
Yeah. Well, we do have one special offer. The Icelandic travel company, Hey Iceland, has an offer of a 20% discount to INLUS members on their self-driving tours in the fall and or in the winter and summer of 2021 if you book by April 1st. Mm-hmm. So that's a nice package. And for those of you who might be interested, the details are in the latest blog on the INLUS website called Visiting Iceland in 2021. One of the other questions that has come in is, do you know what colored zone the UK comes under, and is the UK still part of the Schengen area?
The UK comes under red. Right now, it would be classified as red. They are having great difficulties with COVID right now. I expect they will be having big problems until the spring. It will take them a few months to get back to normal. But the thing is that they have never been part of Schengen. So even when they were part of the EU, they weren't part of the Schengen area. So for example, we've always had to go through border control to get to the UK and vice versa. So the Schengen travel restrictions don't apply to the UK for US travelers. But even if you would like travel to the UK, stay there for 3 days and then travel to Iceland, if you're coming from the UK and you've stayed there for 3 days, then you will be classified as red because you've been in the UK. So because you're classified on where you've been for the last 14 days and not where you come from. And but yeah, they would be red. And like right now, most of Europe is on the red list, or would be classified as red in the new. You can actually see. I can show you just very quickly where you can get information on what's going on with the European countries. If you go into your browser and just type into Google reopen Europe. Oops, that wasn't right. Yeah, there it is. Then you get the first result here, reopen EU, and that's a website where the EU puts out the official status of the countries, and you can see the map. Nearly every country is red. Norway is gray because they have these different classifications for different areas I was talking about earlier. The same with and the UK is gray because they're not part of Europe. So this is the European area that and nearly every European country is on red right now. But you can follow exactly the status of the European countries here. It's updated every week.
Okay. One of the next question concerns families. And the question is, right now, the vaccine is not recommended for children. Mm-hmm. We were hoping to come to Iceland at the end of June or early July and bringing our 3-year-old along with us. Is there anything different regarding entry policies for children? Would it be okay to bring children if the parents have proof of vaccination?
Yes, it depends a little bit on how old the children are.
This would be about 3 to 4 years old, I would
say. 3
say.
to 4 years old. That's no problem. Then you just bring them with you. You don't need anything extra. I think it's children born before 2005. No, children born after 2011 right now don't need any proof of vaccination or anything. They don't need to get tested. They don't need proof of vaccination. They just walk in with the parents, but they have to be, if the parents have to be quarantined, they have to be quarantined with the parents. But otherwise they just follow their parents.
Okay. Is there any talk within Icelandair that you know about of adding flights to Canada?
Yes, there is talk of that. I think they are actually just waiting to start again. So I think as soon as they start ramping up their service again, which would probably be, I would estimate, sometime in beginning of April, they will probably start with around 4 to 6 destinations in Europe, adding 1 or 2 destinations in the US to Boston. So they would have maybe 3, perhaps 4, and then right after that they would probably add. I would estimate that it would be Toronto probably, but Canada is like 3rd on their list, just below the US. So we would get right away when they start up again. We'll right away get a few European destinations and a few 2 or 3 US ones, and then 1 in Canada. I would believe, because their whole operation is based on transferring people over the Atlantic. So Canada is a very important part of that.
All right. What is the time frame for a PCR test in Iceland? I think here in the US it's between 24 hours and however long it takes to get through the backlog.
Yeah, you mean from when I get swabbed and until I get the result?
Yes.
Last 2 times I've been tested 2 times, and it was 5 or 6 hours. But we should probably assume that if we are having like this, if we get a lot of people coming here next summer, then that it will get a little bit longer. So they've usually said you'll get your results within 24 hours. So that's that, and that's been pretty consistent. So.
All right. Well, we have answered all the questions for now, and so if you've got any last-minute questions, please get them entered now. But thanks so much, Jóhannes, for all the great information, and I think most of all for giving us hope that we might actually be able to come back to Iceland this summer. It's uplifting. And as we wrap up today, I want to let people know that in the next couple of weeks, the INLUS will be hosting a webinar on fisheries management in the Arctic on Sunday, January 31st at 8 o'clock Central Time. We have Lauren Fields from the Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, otherwise known as NOAA, will talk to us on what constitutes a border in the ocean and whose border is it and how does it get set. Fish don't seem to really recognize national claims or international waters, but international law and cooperation govern the management of some of the ocean's fish stocks on the high seas. This webinar will describe what it means to manage international fish stocks and introduce a new and emerging area for management, the Central Arctic Ocean. So I think this will be another very interesting webinar. And Jóhannes, thank you so much for coming and talking with us again. It's always a delight to have you here with us. And thank you all for attending today and giving us your time. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye. Be safe.